Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And our class today is hosting the dignity, Tony Medina, who was president of UVU International Forum during several years, and now he works in the State Department. So Stefan is the current president of UVU International Forum. Yeah? Please now take care of the gas.
Yep, we'll do. So my name's Stefan. A lot of you guys already know me. You don't like the Torsax? It's good seeing you guys. I think I've met you actually before. All right, cool. I was like, I'm going crazy. So
Don't worry.
we'd like to get this knocked out of the park by no one you want to read. I will come and read that. Please, perfect. Thank you. Yes. Let's just do your slide.
And the first picture is you and I, Tony?
Yeah. All right. Well, we'd like to welcome Tony. Thank you for coming. I'm just going to read a little bio about Tony. So Special Agent Tony Medina is from Salt Lake City, Utah. Tony joined the Utah State's Department of State Diplomatic Security Service in 2022, where he's currently assigned as a protective liaison agent at the New York field office. Prior to joining the DSS, Tony served the U.S. Army for 9 years as an infantryman and was deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan 3 times. After the military, Tony attended Utah Valley University and graduated in 2016 with a bachelor's in world politics. Later attended Boston University to earn his master's in enterprise risk management. Tony's professional work prior to joining DSS was in critical infrastructure security, serving as the director of corporate security for Polarity TE, a biotech company, and a professional security consultant. Tony is married to his wife, Stacy, of 17 years. They have 2 beautiful dogs, Great Danes, named Suze and.
Gosh, great, James. They do well in New York City.
They love it. They just sit on my couch, so it's
Oh,
great.
well, that works out. Okay, I'll take lunch to go.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for bringing me in, Beck. It's a pleasure to be back. Jan, Jessler, Dr. Butler. It's great to see you guys again. It's kind of a little homecoming. Thanks for the bio. I don't know. I'm not special. I always feel weird when, people make a big deal out of me. And so, I appreciate the fanfare, the dog and pony show, or whatever you call it. So Beck wanted me to come and kind of speak to you guys, to the SDGs and our work in the Utah IMF. I wanted to really emphasize not only like the work that we were able to do while we were just undergrads here at UVU, but also the experiences we got that we were able to translate into future work and experiences that we could speak to on resumes, hiring boards, practical experiences that set you up for success later in life, whether it's in business or, work in diplomacy with the Department of State and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the goal for me this afternoon. I guess we'll just kind of jump into it. So kind of as it says right here, UIMF in its infancy. I started here at UVU in 2013. I had just gotten out of the Army in 2012. When I first got out of the Army, I had a job kind of lined up with a defense contractor. And that job just happened to coincide with President Obama's choice to remove the troops out of Iraq. So there obviously wasn't a need for them to hire me at that point. So, living in my mom's basement right out of the Army, kind of like, well, what am I going to do? So with the new GI Bill and everything like that, I decided, hey, might as well kind of look into going to school. And originally, knee-jerk reaction after getting out of the military, I thought that I was going to get into law enforcement, which is kind of funny, the full circle. Now I am in law enforcement. So I started here at UVU in the criminal justice program. I did that for about a year and realized that I didn't really care for the attitude that my cohort had. It was very, what the instructor said is how it is. There was no pushing back, no questions asked or anything like that. And I kind of felt from a lot of my liberal arts classes and stuff that, your education should be more of a discussion, a give and take. And so after my first year in criminal justice, I decided I was going to transfer over to world politics and political science. And then at the same time, I started working as a writing tutor in the writing lab, the library there. And working there, I started working with another tutor. His name was Colton Sponseller. I don't know if Beck has ever mentioned him before, but he was working with Beck on the Women of the Mountain Conference for 2015, and this was 2013. I mean, it was a big conference, took a lot of work and effort. And he kind of pitched it to me. I was like, yeah, that sounds like something I would be interested in helping out with. And the first day that Colton took me to Beck's office over in the back corner of the first floor, I got scooped up and given an assignment. And from that point forward, it's
You're too kind.
So just kind of wanted to go over, the accomplishments that I, Jessler, Deanne, and the host of other students that we were able to achieve. The trials, the tribulations, fighting through a lot of the bureaucracy at the university, working with a lot of external NGOs, government agencies, whether it was state, federal, local, the Quorum City, and then some of the lessons learned, especially for later in life. So before we kind of jump forward into it, anybody have any questions right off the bat? No? Okay. So one of the first things that I got to do was with Jessler here. Over at BYU, there's a conference called We for She. It's a continual thing, lots of different speaking events and stuff like that, where we were invited to have a table and kind of promote the Women of the Mountain Conference. And that was the first time I had ever really kind of gotten involved. And one of the first things I learned right off the bat was, if you're going to advertise something, pitch something, try to recruit people, you should probably understand what it is that you're trying to sell. And I remember several times people from BYU would come up to the table and say, oh, tell us about this. And Jessler was, talking to other people. So it was up to me to kind of explain our program and platform. And I don't know, we have a conference, and so I'm a person that I hate making myself look stupid. And so I really internalized that experience and came back, and I made sure that I knew exactly what it was that we were advocating for, what we were recruiting for. And so once I kind of understood what it was that we were recruiting for, and admittedly, at first it was a selfish motivation to get some experience, put it on my resume, and be able to turn around and sell it as something that I can get picked up for a company or the government or so forth. But after I really understood what it was that we were recruiting for, I really started to resonate with the cause. And something that still sticks with me, that Beck has told me, is that, it's a wonderful thing to talk about the economy and constitutional rights and so on and so forth. But people don't care about that stuff when they're cold, when they're hungry, when, their kids might die when they're 3 years old, so on and so forth. And so, that really kind of resonated with me that, you're right. Like, if people don't have that basic comfort level, where their food is protected, their shelter's protected, and so on and so forth, they could care less about anything else that we want to talk about. Which, when you go to a lot of the other institutions and a lot of the other organizations that pitch things, that's what they're going to, is right off the bat. Well, you need a constitution, you need law and order, you need this, you need economy. Don't care. They care about living first. And so taking that Utah model, breaking it down and into little pieces and being able to ship that to places that are in the exact same environment that we are, and building it up with women and their help in these countries that women, they're kind of pushed to the back, letting them take charge and help build things up. It really kind of resonated with me. So we had a group of about 12 individuals. And I was telling Stefan earlier that Beck is a little bit of a taskmaster. He wants perfection. And I can't tell you how many times, we've created posters and stuff for different things, and he would email back and say, this needs to be moved a pixel to the left. You can't even see it. And so I would get so frustrated. But you know what? At the end of the day, the product that we were able to turn out as undergrads was amazing. The products, whether it was the visual products, the posters, the advertising for the conference, the videos, the photos, everything was levels above what anybody expected from undergrads. And I think that speaks not only to the caliber of the students that are in this program, but also to Beck, to the advisors that we had, the department, kind of guiding us, Kimberly, and all the hard work that she put forward. I think she worked more for Beck than the department. But at the end of the day, as an undergrad student, and you're talking to employers in interviews, or when I was on track to start working with the State Department, and they ask you tell us about a time that you worked really hard and achieved something, and you're able to point to something like this with the General Assembly letterhead on the top of it, and referencing the organization that you led or that you were a part of, it speaks volumes, right? And so the Women of the Mountains Conference was a bear. It was a mountain to climb, and was it 4 days? Flew by, no sleep. And then when we were done, it was kind of a dopamine dump, right? It was like, okay, that's done. Now what? And it wasn't until later in life that I was able to really kind of associate a lot of the skills that I had picked up with the Women in the Mountain Conference that I've been able to use in both my business career, my government career, and everything like that. And one of the big things that it just seems innocuous is attention to detail. And Beck was insurmountable in helping me have that attention to detail. And then specifically, my title for the Women of the Mountains Conference was Vice President of Logistics and Protocol. When you're able to speak to those types of experiences as a brand new employee, whether you're working for a business or the government, and you can explain why this individual needs to speak first, or this person needs to be greeted first, or so on and so forth, just because of their title. Like, it sets you apart from your colleagues. It's one thing to read something in a book and to regurgitate it on a test or a paper, but when you have actually done it and you have the proof of it, again, it speaks volumes to those experiences. When I was here, I used to call it a side event. We would, the Department of, I forget the department, I'm sorry. But the department that Dr. Butler was over, they would, invite these very high-end officials. They would come and they would provide lectures. And we would always attempt to videotape the lectures and ask really pointed questions, develop posters and advertise for it. And then post them on our UIMF webpage to show that we were engaging with these high-level officials and such. And as a sophomore in the political science program, you don't really understand exactly what the president of ECOSOC really means until you kind of get out in the world and you see what exactly ECOSOC does and what it represents. And back in, what was it, 2018, when the Trump administration withdrew from ECOSOC, I really felt that deep down, because we were pushing the same agenda, and everything that we kind of worked for had taken a step back. And so being able to, liaise with these folks, talk to them, pick their brain, ask them questions, and learn from them was invaluable. And one of the biggest things that I remember we would ask is, what can we as undergrad students do? Every single time, it didn't matter whether it was the Mr. Sajik, other ambassadors, other consul generals, would always say, what you're doing right now is exactly what you can do. Because as peers, students within the university, everybody else around you sees you working and speaking to something or hears you talking about it. You're setting an example and you're helping push that agenda forward. And so we did, we kept doing it. And the experiences that we gained from all these different lectures, whether it was filming it, learning how to check out the videography equipment from the library, learning the back channel way of getting the good equipment that was reserved strictly for the audiovisual students, greasing palms by buying coffees to people and stuff like that. You really learn the back alleys of how to accomplish things. The ambassador from Fiji, Mr. Thompson, this was a very interesting event for us, because as we were talking to him, he was really highlighting climate change. And I knew climate change existed. I knew climate change was coming and, you know, the issues it caused. But I live in Utah. I live in a desert, right? It's just going to get drier. Whatever, I'll tear my lawn out. I'll flush my toilet less, whatever. But when this gentleman started talking about how his island was losing 10 to 15 feet every year, and they were spending millions of dollars to build seawalls to help shore up just his people's place to live, it really brought home to me that it's not just my little section of the world, right? I mean, it's a globe. We're all part of it. And what I do affects everybody else and vice versa. And this event really kind of solidified to me what those SDGs mean and why we're fighting for it. A lot of the Women in the Mountains Conference, the He for She program, and stuff like, or not He for She, excuse me. Gender equality and stuff like that, you know, important. Climate change, important. And that's why I really believe, I wish the diagram was up here, but the SDGs logo, circle, right? Because not one is more important than the other. And this one really kind of emphasized that for me. So this was the second time we went. We went in 2015, correct?
It's first,
This is the first time? Okay.
next year after the conference,
Oh, that's when.
immediately.
So after the conference, we really wanted to start pushing the agenda further and seeing what we could do with it. Beck, again, instrumental with his connections and his knowledge of how things work, was able to get us some, and with the help of Dr. Butler, we were able to get passes to the Commission for the Status of Women Conference, held in New York City, the United Nations. And I remember going to all the different breakout sessions. There were some held at the UN itself on First Avenue. There were some blocks away in all these random churches and conference rooms that people would rent out for an extra buck and stuff like that.
Parallel event.
Yeah, the parallel events. And I remember getting the program agenda and it being thick as a book and really kind of having to, well, what's more important to us, what's more interesting and such. And this event was in a church right off of 42nd Avenue, really close to the UN. And for me, this is kind of a catalyst for the work that I started doing. But I remember standing in the back of the room because there were no more chairs. And standing in the back of the room just like this, listening to Pete Ass Bennett, and really talking about the exploitation of women, human trafficking. And it was heartbreaking to listen to her and the statistics and everything like that. But it was also really heartening to hear what the department was doing to combat that. But as I'm standing in the back, keep in mind, this is probably like the 10th time in my life that I'd ever worn a suit. Just kind of standing like this, someone comes up to me and says, the ambassador for the PDAS will be leaving in a few minutes. We'll have the motorcade down at the front or whatever. Like, you talking to me? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were part of the protection detail. No, and they're like, oh, well, disregard everything I just said. But it really kind of got me started. Like, man, that's kind of interesting, and kind of looked into it and saw the State Department's protection, and here I am several years later working for the State Department of Protection. Being able to go to these places and experience people's life stories, the things that other organizations are doing. Matter of fact, one of them, we sat in on one where there's an organization that does microloans. You $60, $100, $300, whatever you want to microloan. These women in Africa, they take these microloans, and maybe their business just needs a sewing machine or something like that. They buy that sewing machine with your money, and now they've got a thriving business in the country that they're living in, making clothes or baskets or something like that. And I had never heard of that before until I had gone to this breakout session. And to this day, I still do it. About once a month, I log on, $60, $100. You know, sometimes you can individually sponsor. I think it's fantastic to be able to see what some of these women are able to come up with. And I always just decline to receive the money back and just reinvest it. But I love doing that. But again, just being able to be exposed to these types of events was awesome. This is the motley crew. A lot of these guys, especially Moogie, I'm still very, very close with. Taken in the lobby of the UN at the CSW 61 the next year. And for me, it was easy because I didn't have to do anything. But it was kind of a surreal moment because I wasn't the one that was whacking through the bush with the machete, figuring out how to do things and where to go and what was applicable to the UIMF and such. I was mentoring as a senior in undergrad. I was telling these guys, hey, we should look at this. We should consider doing this. And then at the end of the day, would sit down and everybody would write their little daily, lack of a better word, diary. We did this, we did that. And then just like I used to get mad at Beck for, I was turning around and I was saying, hey, you should really address this. And you should really emphasize this, or don't include that. That's probably not the best idea.
Mentorship. No tradition student.
That's right. And so I remember thinking to myself one night, wow, kind of come full circle here. Several years later, actually, it was right after COVID broke up and we were able to actually start going to restaurants again. Moogie had just gotten out of the Air Force, and we sat down and had lunch, and he told me a story about how I had sent back his essay a couple of times. It's like, I hated you. I was like, wow, I feel bad. It was exactly how I was. So yeah, I mean, basically what I'm trying to say here is that when you're starting here, you kind of feel like you're drowning, right? You're a fish out of water. You have no idea what you're doing. And eventually all of a sudden you're telling somebody what to do. You're mentoring them. And it's not a light bulb. This stuff doesn't happen right away. You work your way into it. And it might take you a little while before you realize that, okay, I'm in a position that I can actually teach and mentor. And so from my personal experiences, don't expect things to just happen. They take time, and you work towards it, and you get where you want to go. It's the message I want to bring home with that. This was one of the last events that Buenos. One of the last events that I attended before before I left UVU. And it was kind of a bittersweet moment. Because I used to be the one that was orchestrating everything, creating posters and submitting it to the advertisement office to have them put it on the electronic signboards, and checking out the camera from the library, and ordering lunch with Kimberly and having it ready. This one, all I had to do was show up. And I realized that it's a cycle. People come in, people go out, but here I am several years later, and I'm still trying to help, and I still want to be involved. And I honestly really think that that's exactly what this program and what this club is all about, is learning, promoting, and then as the next generation comes in, propping them up, getting them accesses and stuff, helping out and doing what we can to promote the SDGs, the methodology that we created through the research and the classes and stuff like that. And with the help of the faculty and the students itself, the machine drives on, and here you guys are. I don't think there was an actual class for the SDGs when I was here, and now you actually get credit for this. And you actually learn about it instead of us just reading about it and inferring different things. You have, actual instructors that are teaching to it. And to me, that's great because we learned it on our own. We learned it sitting in Beck's office in the dark corner, or the office to the left or the right of Beck's office that he secured, which I'm not sure how he was able to do that.
Now it's going, yeah.
But yeah, that's why I threw this one in there. And it's crazy to sit here and see all the faces there. Everybody's got different careers now. It's interesting. I don't remember this. Honest.
This was about climate change and small islands lecture. But you're there.
Photo evidence. Tonight.
It's not a video.
What I do remember specifically about this, and one thing that we tried to get involved with was citizen diplomacy. That still trying to promote, friendship, liaison, business, support, whatever it is, as a citizen. The government has their agenda, yes, but there's still stuff you can do as just a regular citizen. And I remember speaking to Beth about that, and I remember that really resonated. Actually, I think I still have her card. I'm sure she's not in the same position anymore, but yeah, I wish I could speak more to the event, but I apologize. It's been years. All right, so kind of coming full circle, right? What I learned, you and that. First things first, protocol. One of the big things that attracted me to working with Beck was his experience as a diplomat. I knew I wanted to get in the government. I knew I wanted to do something, and his experience would have been valuable. And moving through the Women in the Mountains Conference and talking to consul generals, talking to ambassadors, talking to permanent representatives, to a layman, those are just titles. They're fancy words that get put on a business card, and they don't mean anything. But when you start working with these people and you talk with them and you invite them, promote their visits and such, you start to learn what exactly that title actually means. And when you're working with multiple people at those levels, unfortunately, there is a pecking order. And understanding how not to offend this person, how best to keep the diplomacy moving, and stuff like that. The protocol experience just at this level alone is invaluable. Because you can translate that into just business, right? I mean, speaking to a manager, a director, and a vice president within a company. Okay, well, it's the exact same thing as a consulate, an ambassador, a prime minister, or a foreign minister. And so the protocol was, for me, great. The experiences of actually being able to put that in practice was phenomenal. Logistics. One of the things that U.S. military is known for is the logistics, being able to put people, bombs, fuel, tanks, anywhere in the world, a certain amount of time. And so when I first graduated high school and serving in the military, I thought that was how everything took place. You just asked for it and there it was. You didn't care about what was going on in the background, how things were done or anything like that. So when I moved into this position at the university and I was first asked to order lunch for somebody, how the hell do I do that? And the biggest takeaway for me was don't be afraid to ask questions, go knock on doors, make phone calls, look at websites. I started with calling the cafeteria. Hey, who do I place orders with? Oh, you got to call catering. Oh, okay. Do you have their number? Sure. Or getting the electronic signage put up to advertise events and such. Well, you got to have a poster. Okay, I got a poster for it. Okay, is it in the right format? Okay, well, what are the, and learning those things and figuring out, well, if you want it horizontal, you got to have it so and so. If you want a portrait, you got to have it so and so, certain resolution, so on and so forth. And then also making sure that you're putting the right message out there. The group that you're trying to entice and bring in is something that I really take and move forward in my life. Bureaucracy. University is a big bureaucracy. I can't tell you how many times we got shut down 2 levels above the department because it was interfering with something else they were doing or such and such. But then having to go and talk to this guy who can pull some strings and get this worked out. And okay, well, you can do that, but you just can't talk. Okay. Especially in my position as the club president and such, working with student organizations and realizing that you had the student VP that was in your back pocket that you could always take, and she could go, but hey, these guys want to do this, but you're saying no. Why is that? Oh, well, if you're vouching for it, well, yeah, we can figure something out. Bureaucracy it's everywhere. I work with it every day. The big takeaway is that don't give up if someone just says no. There's always ways to appeal it, to go around it, find a way to, okay, well, what if we just did this instead of that? There's compromises that you can make. So bureaucracy is important. It's how the machine keeps moving, and using it to your advantage is a huge takeaway. Once you learn the system and someone else doesn't know how to use it, you're in a much better position than they are. And I can give you several examples of how that's benefited me in my professional life. And then finally, priority tasking pivot. Big fancy word, right? But a lot of people call it multitasking or something like that. But essentially, priorities change. They can change at a second. We were really pushing. I think it was in March. I forget the Women's Month or something like that.
March 8th.
Yeah, we were really getting ready for something like that. Building posters, advertising, inviting people, stuff like that. And then the last second, someone decided they were going to make a visit to UVU. And you're invested in this. You put hours and hours of work into something, and being told, all right, that's no longer the priority, this is. Being able to, one, let that go because you've got a lot of sunk energy and emotions into something. And two, being able to say, okay, this is a new priority because the mission's changed. Being able to pivot and not take it personally and complete the task it was a huge, huge lesson that I took away. Because whether it's a business, I can't tell you how many times we've had a project that said, no, we're done with that. Either the money dried up, new management doesn't care about it, so on and so forth. Just gotta let it go, new priorities, or the government, you know, you're working for certain people, you're doing something, and they decide, no, we're not coming. All that time and energy just went somewhere, where this guy's no longer the priority, this guy is. It was a skill that I learned here, and it really takes the driver's seat very quickly when you get out to the real world. And having the practical experience here at UVU, you know, you learn it, and you know, this is training. Being able to take that and put it into practice, valuable. So yeah, that's kind of the end there. You know, I again just want to express my deepest thanks to UVU, all the folks that helped me get to where I am, people that I worked with, Diane and Jessler and Chopin. Still waiting for another plate of plov.
In New York.
You know, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that if there's ever anything I can do for anybody, please don't hesitate to ask. I've got a bunch of cards up here before you guys leave for the day. Make sure you grab one. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm more than happy to help out in any way that I can.
I have a question.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things you said earlier is like you're excited to keep working with UIMF. What's the best way do you feel like engage you postgraduate to want to keep doing that? Right, because we only have a few postgraduates who are kind of still around, or chatting or in part of it. So what would your recommendation be to like say, get Noah to keep working with us past graduation? Or him?
I think that's kind of a two-pronged answer. On one prong, you have to make it something that they want to continue working with, right? So getting those experiences and making them fun experiences, something you remember, resume builders, so on and so forth. And when you're exposed to those types of experiences, you want to come back and keep experiencing, right? Here I am talking to you guys again. So that's kind of my first prong answer to that. Second one is giving them something that they can do that is conducive to life. When you're in college, you know, maybe you have a part-time job, maybe you're not, maybe you're just a full-time student, so on and so forth. You have some extra spare time to dig in and invest into an extracurricular activity. Once you graduate, you're going to start working 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You're going to get a mortgage. You're going to have to mow the lawn. You got to take the car to get the oil change. You got to take the dog to the vet. Now your wife wants to take you to dinner. You're supposed to take your wife to dinner. You know, your time gets eaten up very quickly. And if someone reaches out and says, "Hey, I need you to edit this video in 5 minutes," you're gonna ghost them because you don't have the time to invest in it. And so if you can reach out to someone and say, "Hey, we really need some help. Can you know, bite-sized tasks, something that they can fit into their schedule, reproduce, and give you a product that they're proud of and still be a part of it," I think is a great way to keep people involved.
Thank you.
I have 1 minute, and after a photo. Otherwise, we need to finish.
I have a question. In your position in New York and your interactions with the diplomats and visitors, do you feel like you get have conversations with them about issues, or is it more of your job is to do your job?
Yeah, so in my position, no. Yeah, we're not there to interact with the foreign ministers, or the ambassadors, or whoever's coming through that we're providing protection to. However, the people that we really do liaise with quite a bit are their staff. And one thing that I've really learned is that the staff are who actually get the work done. There's the figurehead, but then there's the person that actually drives the car and puts gas in it. And we liaise with them all the time. And because diplomacy happens at a snap of a finger, drop of a hat, you have to be places well in advance, which a lot of time means you have a lot of extra time to just chat. And so being able to talk with their staff, understand what it is that they're doing, you know, why they're at the UN Security Council, or why they're in New York talking to JP Morgan, or so on and so forth. And, oh, that's interesting. When I was in college, I worked on this. Oh, really? And yeah, what college was that? UVU. Oh, yeah, we've heard of that. We have students that go there, you know, like you get to kind of experience that diplomacy without the protocol, I should say. It's not as stiff-lipped and everything. And to me, I think that's where the rubber really meets the road, because they're going to go back and they're going to talk to the minister. They're going to try to solve a problem. Well, there's an option that I talked to this guy and says that this university is really pushing this. And then maybe someone might make a phone call. But yeah, the short answer is no, I really don't get to conversate with them. But being around them and hearing conversations, this particular lecture, the government's a bureaucracy, right? I had to get the public affairs clearance to come out here and speak in my official capacity. So I can't tell you specifics, but there was a very unfriendly, high-ranking foreign minister that came into New York, and I was part of the protection detail. And this was right around the time that Khartoum had just broken down into civil war and craziness. And as the State Department, the news and the buzz was evacuating Khartoum, getting the FSOs, the diplomats out, family members out, the classified information, the equipment, so on and so forth. It was very American focused. But driving this minister around as he was going to go and make a speech to the UN Security Council, in the back, he's conversating with one of his aides, and for whatever reason, he was doing it in English. I'm sure it was counterintelligence driven, but they're discussing what their government was going to do with Khartoum. And then you realize that it's not a US problem. It's a global problem, global issue. Every government's concerned about it. And to me, I think that was one of the defining moments when I first started getting to work in the job, to be able to, oh, the world pays attention to stuff like this. I'm a part of it. And yeah, I guess that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
Thank you.
I have a photo here.
Tony, we have a little Janice would like to present you with a few little items of appreciation.
Oh, cool.
Thanks for coming to UVU.
I want for
Smile.
I know.
And this is a key.
So I don't like this right here.
Do the picture, do the shade.
Let's try to get everyone up here for a group photo, if that's all right.
Hopefully.